How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to be looking at the historical data for booster boxes like Lost Origin and Fusion Strike. Pikachu EX is taken off, Greninja EX is taken off. Lost Origin was a super popular set, one of the best from Sword and Shield after Evolving Skies, and the Fusion Strike set was super popular and got more popular over time actually. And both of these sets have $300 cards. So we're going to compare these sets with Scarlet and Violet. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but we got to look at the data because the data will help us figure out how low do these sets go when there are reprints and restocks, and are there still opportunities to invest like with Lost Origin and Fusion Strike after a restock and reprints, because they do affect prices not only for the singles as we're going to go over in the data today, but they affect prices for the booster boxes and the booster box cases. So we're going to look at that data today. I got a lot of data to share with everyone. I'm super excited. So let's go ahead and jump right into the data and these comparisons and try to figure out how much more Surging Sparks are we going to get and how much more Twilight Masquerade, because I think it's worth it. All right, let's check it out. First, let's check out the Surging Sparks right here, right? It's releasing November 8th, so I believe that's this upcoming Friday. You can see that there's so much volume right here. There's like 300 to 200 booster boxes being sold at this price right here, at this $142 price, and down here at the $125 price. It's been confirmed that we're getting restocks of Surging Sparks soon and a few other things post-release. So probably December and January. And in January, we're going to get that Prismatic Evolution set. And so I'm going to do another video about that. But definitely a buy, all the products. Maybe not a whole lot, but as you can see from 151, they go up. They're popular. Popular sets do well. They go up over time, even with reprints and restocks. So that's why we're going to look at the data today for all the sets. And we're going to look at data for booster box cases. So don't miss out on that. All right, so right here you can see that we have Lost Origin timeline for the past 2 years. The set was released in September 2022, September 9th. So it's only 2 years old, if you can believe that. It's only 2 years old. It was one of the last two sets from Sword and Shield, and then it was Silver Tempest. And so you can see right here that post-release, it was selling and had a market price of about $100, $120. And then October, a year later, it had a market price still of around $120. And I remember this too because just last holiday, last Christmas of 2023, I remember you could get Lost Origin booster boxes for like $125, $115. And then that last restock came on the Pokemon Center, or it sold out, and then we got a restock. And it went down to $105 right here in early January. It went down further from when I bought like 3 booster boxes for $115. And then I bought 2 more after January when it went up to $125 again. And then, Pokemon Center sold out of them. And so that's when it started to take off earlier this year in April to $160, $180. And then in July to $200. And ever since July, we've had a support line of around $200. And so the yellow line is TCG Player. Currently, $235 is the market price. And eBay, the market price is $225. So a little bit of a difference there. But as you can see, it's starting to make a run again into the 220s. And so now let's look at the booster box cases right here for Lost Origin. Again, this was released 2 years ago, September 9th. And as you could see, just 1 year ago, the booster box case was still for only $750. Now, there's a bunch of anecdotal market sentiment stuff we can add, like Sword and Shield was people were into Sword and Shield, but now there's more collectors and investors in Scarlet and Violet, and etc. Whatever the case, a year ago, you could still get cases for under $800. And now Surging Sparks and Twilight Masquerade, we're going to check out those case prices. They're already past $800 right now. So we're definitely in a bull market right now. Back in Lost Origin and Silver Tempest, it was after COVID and everything, 2022, 2023. There was a lot of product available. There was demand. But now the demand is really, really high right now. And there's a lot of people interested in Pokemon. So you can see for 1 year ago, This booster box case for Lost Origin was about $700, $800, and it's gone up by 53% in just 1 year. From last November to November 2024, it's gone up 53%. That's a big swing. And mainly because we were exiting the Sword and Shield era, entering a new era, and these sets weren't really going to be available on Pokemon Center anymore. No more reprints, no more restocks. Because everyone's afraid of reprints and restocks, but if it's a great set, it's definitely a good buy. So that's what we're going to look at the data today. We're going to continue because this data is interesting. Now let's look at the booster box cases for Surging Sparks. $824. And you can see there were still 15 cases sold at the end of, October. 15 cases still sold at 800, or let's see, about 760, almost $800. Now the market price is $824. And so there's so much volume for these sets, Surging Sparks right now. People are still buying into these sets, the booster box case at $800, $824 for Surging Sparks. So, and then the reason why is we're going to look at the chase card right here is the Pikachu. Pikachu, hasn't even fully been released. I know people are doing unboxings on YouTube and pulling the Pikachu, and the pull rates seem to be pretty difficult. So this set releases this Friday, and right now you could see this is eBay data. The last sale for this card in a raw copy was $325, and then prior to that, $350, and then prior to that, it was sold in auction with 10 bids, and it ended up selling for $406. So we don't know yet if this card's going to stay $300. Currently, the Greninja, we'll look at Greninja data soon. But it's really interesting that this set is absolutely taken off. There's so many people interested. You have streamers, you have new collectors, you have new investors. More people are going big on the second half of Scarlet and Violet because it's a better sets are coming out. We have Prismatic Evolutions coming out in January. Then we have in May 2025 the Glory of Team Rocket, and that's going to be an epic set. And so now let's look at the data for Twilight Masquerade, because Twilight Masquerade and Surging Sparks are just absolutely going to the moon. And so let's look at the data for this set right here. You can see that currently the market price is $166. And you can see that since May 2024, 6 months ago, post-release, it was about $100, $120. And then in September, it shot up to $140. And mainly because the Greninja got really popular. Twilight Masquerade, people weren't liking the set before it released, and then it released. And a lot of people really liked the Greninja, and the pull rates were difficult. And it's a big set. So now it's selling for $166. We've got some sleeve blister packs or sleeve booster packs got restocked. And we've had restocks of Twilight Masquerade. But again, it was so popular that the price went up. The market price goes up when demand goes up. And so that's what we have now for Twilight Masquerade. And then let's look at the booster box case right here. Same thing. Booster box cases back post-release were about under $500, under $600 for a little while. And then booster box cases were about $650, not too bad. Over here in August 2024, $650, that's about $110 a box. You know, Twilight Masquerade came out. People were still wondering, should we wait till the rest of Scarlet and Violet? But that Greninja took off, and because of that Greninja taking off and the pull rates being difficult, like 700 packs to get a Greninja, almost 1,000 packs, you can see that the booster box case followed suit with the booster boxes and are now selling at a market price of $884 for the booster box case of Twilight Masquerade, which is funny because just a year ago, Lost Origin and Fusion Strike booster box cases were $800. So it's done more damage in 6 months post-release to get to $800 than Lost Origin did in its first year, and Fusion Strike performed in the first year for the booster box case. They were still $750 for the case, which is more than $100 per booster box. But Surging Sparks and Twilight Masquerade, there's so much demand at the back half of Scarlet and Violet. There's so many streamers opening packs now. Pokemon's just getting really big and really popular, and so these booster box cases are performing really well. And so I was lucky that I got my booster box case of Surging Sparks. We didn't even know what the Pikachu looked like I just rolled the die and I was like, you know what? I haven't got a booster box case since Paradox Rift for about 600. This is a Pikachu set, and we already knew it was going to be a large set because we knew it was going to be a combo of two Japanese sets. And so I went ahead, rolled the dice, and got lucky. So now let's look at the all-time data for Twilight Masquerade, because we're going to compare that with Lost Origin and Fusion Strike, and we're going to see how it's already performing way stronger than Fusion Strike and Lost Origin. And those sets have Giratina, like $700 PSA 10 cards. So right here, 6 months ago, this set was released. Still crazy to believe. But you can see right here that the blue line is the eBay line. And the market price right here through eBay is $136 for a sealed booster box. But TCG Player is more expensive at $166. And it's a lot more expensive than eBay. And a lot of people are just trying to get out of some of their investments already. They're trying to sell, make that $40 return, and then get into something else, whether they need money or they want to reinvest or they just need cash now. We could see that for a lot of sets, and a lot of sets are doing well. Obsidian Flames, like all of these Scarlet and Violet sets are doing pretty well right now. And so the reason why this set right is doing well is because of that Greninja. Now let's look at the Greninja data, because the Greninja data is interesting. At one point, the PSA 10 right here in yellow was a $700 PSA 10, and that was like May, June, July, 3 months after release. The popularity, you can see the popularity led this Greninja PSA 10 to go from $600 to $700. And since then, the PSA 10 copy has dropped from $700 back down to $600, which is still an expensive PSA 10 for a brand new set that literally just came out this year. But again, pull rates are hard, and a lot of people have found out that since Sword and Shield, pull rates were really difficult. A lot of those cards are performing really well. Some of them have dropped significantly in the past 6 months because the hype and FOMO died out for Sword and Shield a little bit, but a lot of those cards are starting to recover. Some cards haven't recovered yet, like the Machamp V, so that's still a good one to get into. But anyways, and then the raw copy right now for this Greninja, eBay $292, TCG Player currently for the Greninja $319 for a raw modern card. And then card market, the European card market is $256. And so really interesting to see. We could see the last sales right here I got for you. Grade 10 PSA $600 recently. And then we could see for a raw copy $300 on eBay, another raw copy $260 on eBay. So these are recent sales, the most recent sales. And then a PSA 10 copy $587 in an auction, 17 bids. So maybe auctions are the way to look out for these cards. People are trying to sell these cards quickly, and rather than try to put up a price and wait for it to get sold, because it's such a high commodity right now, such in high demand, it looks like auctions are performing pretty well. So yeah, $587 in an auction, not too bad for a brand new card from this year. All right, now let's go ahead and compare that to the Giratina V from Lost Origin. We talked about how Lost Origin last December, that restock came in last minute, then it got sold out. And then Lost Origin was sitting at around $115 just a year ago. And Lost Origin was released in September. Again, that's only 2 years ago. So 1 year after release, Lost Origin was still $115. At one point, it did get to $160. But once those reprints came and restocks, it dropped from $160 down to $140. And then we got another restock, so it dropped down to $110. So what I'm trying to say is Twilight Masquerade and Surgent Sparks can drop down to $110. It's possible. It's going to take like, what do we say, 2 years? At least a year from now to get some restock or reprints of these sets. We don't know for sure. But if it does drop to $110, $140, $160, look at the potential it has now. Pre-orders are already $160 for Surging Sparks. And so now there is a thing about Battle Styles getting up to $200, but it was the first alternate art set in Sword and Shield. And so that set hasn't recovered since then. It's only $135, $136 for the Battle Style set. But that's because then we got the later half of Sword and Shield, Fusion Strike, Evolving Skies, and all these other sets were a lot better. So why compare Twilight Masquerade and Surging Sparks? Well, so far they're the best sets of Scarlet and Violet. What is that? Set number 6 for Twilight Masquerade and set number 8 for Surging Sparks. So we're almost to Team Rocket and everything in those last 4 sets that are main sets. But you can't go wrong sometimes with these other sets. Evolving Skies is the best set, but then you have Lost Origin and Fusion Strike. And we could see the reason why people want Lost Origin is the Giratina V, and the reason why people want Fusion Strike is the Gengar Vmax. But look at this hype right here. PSA 10 right here, it got up to $800 for the Giratina V. The raw card on TCG Player got up to about $400, $500. And then it fell off since then, and now it's starting to make a run again right now in October 2024, and it's selling in the upward direction at around $700, almost $800 for the Giratina V in a PSA 10. So it's gained about $100 in the past month for that PSA 10, and you can see the raw copy is starting to catch up a little bit too. So even though they fell off from $400 raw, $500 raw, and $900 in a PSA 10, PSA 10 copies are now around $750, and the raw copy is starting to go up to about $350. So they're making good returns after the hype, after the FOMO, reprints, restock, because this is the all-time data for this Lost Origin Giratina V. You can see that even with the couple restocks right here in December, it went down, to about $200 for a while, and then it shot up back in early July, May of 2024 to $500. So from $200 to $500, look how quickly sets can recover after a restock, after a reprint. All right, here's the Giratina V. Here's some more data for the last recent sales. You can see the PSA 10, $842 in a 10. Before that, $952 in a 10. These aren't auctions. These are just buy it nows. And then right here, look at this sweet deal right here. There was an auction, and someone was able to get a Giratina V in a PSA 10 for $790. 27 bids. So PokeData.io is such a great resource. Now let's look at this Lost Origin booster box, kind of like I explained earlier. Last year, it was about $120, and look at the volume of sales. 10 to 40 copies or 10 to 40 booster boxes of LO was being sold every few days. And even after that restock / reprint on the Pokemon Center, it got sold out again. And look, upper direction 120 to 160, shot up in May 2024 once we kind of figured out that, hey, there's no more reprints or restocks coming in. Shot up to around $220, went down to 180, 200, 180, 200, and now the market price is $235, and it's trending in the upper direction. So that's a 75% gain in the past year. And again, this Lost Origin set is only 2 years old. So what's going to happen next with Twilight Masquerade and Surging Sparks? Is it going to get to $200 2 years from now? It's already close to $150 for both of those sets. So only time will tell. And those restocks and reprints, they'll bring the sets down, but they're really popular. It's kind of obvious that these sets are going to be really good to invest in and to have in your portfolio, in your closet, in your house, in your garage, wherever is safest for you, right? All right, so here we got this Fusion Strike booster box, same thing. Now, Fusion Strike is 3 years old. It was released in November 12th, 2021. So it's almost exactly 3 years old. And a year ago, it was about $150, $140. And so a year ago would mean that Fusion Strike was 2 years old, and it was a $150 set. And again, Twilight Masquerade is already $150, and Surging Sparks is already $150. And Fusion Strike did get restocked on the Pokemon Center around this time, so that's why it dropped down in early February. It got restocked twice, which is crazy. And so it got restocked, went up to $180, $160. There was one more restock that lasted like maybe 5 days. The first restock was like 2 weeks. And then after that restock, it was to the moon. It literally went in a month from $160 all the way up to $240, almost $260. And it stayed there for like 4 months. Up until August, it dropped down to $220. Now it's trending in the upper direction and selling for about $228 right now. So Fusion Strike, Lost Origin, super popular because of the chase cards in the set. Gengar Vmax and the Lost Origin Giratina V. Now we have Greninja EX and Pikachu EX. So those can all compete together over time, but those are all 4 of these sets are good. Now look at this timeline for 3 years. This is the all-time data for Fusion Strike. Currently, it's selling on TCG Player for $228, eBay $213. So you can cut yourself a little deal there. But if we look at, so this is three years, right? It's 3 years old. At one point, it was $140 post-release or pre-release. Went down all the way to $100 for a whole year. $100, $120, $120 in its second year. Now we're entering its third year. It's almost 3 years old, and it was $160 in January 2024. And then once we've kind of figured out that, hey, there's no more coming in on Pokemon Center, no more distributors have Fusion Strike anymore, brand new boxes or anything, no more restock, reprints besides Pokemon Center, then it shot up from $160 to $200, $220. And it went down from $240 down to $220, and it's starting to rise to almost $230. So the window seems to be like 3 years, at least for Fusion Strike. If we look at Silver Tempest, if we look at Evolving Skies, different numbers, different sets, right? But for these two sets, Lost Origin and Fusion Strike, they're not the very best set from Sword and Shield. That's definitely Evolving Skies. But after that, it kind of goes to either Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike, or Lost Origin. And Chilling Reign was even worse. Prices for Chilling Reign for those booster boxes, there was so much supply because they were trying to, make up for what was going on during COVID. That, the demand kind of fell off, and then there was more supply. There was $85 booster boxes for Chilling Reign, and we'll have to do a video on Chilling Reign all time and compare that to Scarlet and Violet. And so, yeah, so at some point, after year 3, it was $160, and then it got sold out, $160 up to $220 right away. So we'll have to see for Surging Sparks and Twilight Masquerade what ends up happening. But right now they're $160. That's not too bad. $60 on top of a $100 box for Twilight Masquerade isn't that bad, knowing that there's a lot of potential for that set because of the Greninja. Same thing with Surging Sparks. $150, okay, you're paying $50 extra, but now you for sure have that booster box already. And even if they reprint it, whatever, like it has the Pikachu EX and it has the Latias EX and everything. So, and it has Milotic, and then it has all of the illustration rares as well. So, but look at this booster box case, same thing. Like I said earlier, $800 a year ago. So this set again is 3 years old. So a year ago it was only 2 years old. And after that restock and everything, and there was no more on Pokemon Center, it went up to $1,200 earlier this year in July 2024, and then went up to $1,600, and the market price is $1,500 right now, currently. Right now. So 3 years later, or 1 year later, it went from an $800 case to a $1,600 case, almost $1,500 case. So that's an 80% return for your money. So if you're getting cases at $800, there's still a huge amount of potential in the next 3 years for Twilight Masquerade and Surging Sparks to do really well. And again, here's the Gengar Vmax. You can see right here that this PSA 10 was super volatile all time. At one post-release, it was about $600, then $400 for its second year, and then now entering it's almost 3 years old, right? It shot up from a PSA 10 of $400 up to $700, and now it's a PSA 10 for $600. So $600 was post-release, PSA 10 now 3 years later, $600. So it definitely depends on when you get this PSA 10 copy for any of these sets. Greninja, Pikachu EX, you don't want to get them when they're super, super high. They're up $100, $200 for PSA 10. You want to wait for other sets to come out and for the hype to die down for these Pokemon cards. And then that's when you go ahead and snipe them or grade them or whatever you want to do. And you can see after these sets were finally sold out on Pokemon Center that these cards started to take off. TCG Player from a $200 card to a $300 down to a $250 card. And now it's still a $300 card on TCG Player. So it looks like it shot up more to like $350. But yeah, now it's $330 on TCG Player. And same thing with the PSA 10. Shot up in January from about $400, shot up to $700 in about May, and then came down from $700 down to about $600. And so once it sells out on Pokemon Center, it's kind of proven that the booster box sealed goes up, and these cards tend to go up as well. But they can always come down a little bit. So definitely be looking at getting these cards when they trend in the downward direction for a few months. and before a upward trend, definitely before that. So recent sales, we got a PSA 10 610, PSA 10 699, and then another PSA 10. These are all grade 10s, 677. So you're looking at 670 to about $700. That's a lot of money for a PSA 10 Gengar. And, we'll see how these prices do over time. Maybe they'll dip lower for the Gengar and the Lost Origin, but there's so much demand for these Pokemon cards right now. A lot of the alternate arts are starting to recover, actually. So there you have it, everyone. Reprints and restocks, they do affect Pokemon sets. When they're about $160 sets or even $140, they tend to go down. In Lost Origin's case, to $110, $115. Fusion Strike's case, it went down to $140, $120. But restocks are a great opportunity, right, to buy more of the product, especially if it's a really hyped up set, a really great set with ultimate chase cards. Surgeon Sparks, Pikachu EX, Twilight Masquerade, Greninja EX. These are like some of the best chase cards probably for main sets in Scarlet and Violet. Now there's a plethora of other sets that are really great to get into. But so far, these have been the two most hyped sets, the two most expensive sets, either pre-order for Pikachu and the Surging Sparks, or Twilight Masquerade post-release. Temporal Forces didn't do this. Paradox Rift didn't really do this. So there you have it, everyone. It takes about 2 to 3 years on average to go ahead and see that $200 threshold for these sets. The set can go from $160, $150, $140 to $200 in about 2 to 3 years we're looking at. And we just did a comparison with Lost Origin and Fusion Strike. Honestly, it does differ with Silver Tempest, and if you compare to Evolving Skies, those are completely different sets, or even Astral Radiance. But I think we can all agree that Fusion Strike and Lost Origin are like top 3 if you include Evolving Skies being number 1, of course. So there you have it, everyone. I'll see y'all later. Peace.